Welcome to the Callback Countdown podcast. I'm Joseph Maxwell. I'm currently producing a musical that I wrote, which is crazy, and I wanted to share the story of how it came to be. So I'll be going back through my whole life and pinpointing the people, places, and moments that led directly or indirectly to this. Today I am joined by Deena, Nyer, Mendlowitz. Uh, Thank you so much for being here, Deena.
My
Um,
pleasure.
Deena is truly a hero of mine, especially in the world of Cleveland comedy. I think a hero to everyone in the alternative Cleveland comedy world. And I came into this world in a very circuitous way. So I played music, and Allie, my wife, told stories with Story Club. So somehow that led to both of us performing on Mental Illness and Friends, a show that has, at this point, totally stood the test of time as a pillar of the local alternative comedy scene. This was the first comedy show I ever actually saw in Cleveland, other than technically, I think when I was like in eighth grade, I saw something Dada, which is like the improv
Yeah.
when I was a kid. But other than that, I hadn't seen any comedy shows, so this is really the my introduction, and I really thought that shows like that were kind of normal, and I was really excited about that. And then I like only realized later how special Mental Illness and Friends really was as a combination and of all of the comedy and also all of the heart and all of that important stuff. It got deep and interesting every time. Um, and that was really my intro to the to this world that is now such a big part of my life. So a really big part of my journey. And Deena, the host of Mental Illness and Friends and the creator. And I definitely want to talk about that, but even taking it a step farther, I know you've told this to me at some point and to others, but how did you get started in comedy?
Sure. The short story, I mean, I would say is because of two cruise ships. Uh, when I was in junior high, I went on a cruise with my parents, and because we were safe on a ship, they let me do what I want. So I used to go watch the late night stand-up shows by myself, and that was thrilling. And then I got married several years later, and we went on a cruise, and there happened to be a Star Trek convention on the cruise, and
Gosh.
we snuck into their activities. And one of them was Will Wheaton had an improv sketch group uh, called Ernest Borgnine, and I saw it and loved it, and I always loved comedy. And I came home, and 2 months later saw that Second City had classes here, and I started taking improv with Second City Cleveland.
Awesome. So can you tell me a little bit more about sort of the because Second City Cleveland no
Mhm,
longer exists.
mhm.
So can you tell us how you kind of started from there and then how it's progressed over the time since you've started and how that improv has existed in Cleveland?
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure something Dada predates Second City by a little bit. And before
Hmm.
that, years ago, there was a group of people a lot who had trained in Chicago and some from Cleveland called Giant Portions. So they were kind of known as the two improv groups. And Second City came in and they were here, I don't know, 2 or 3 years maybe. I'm not sure the exact amount of time. And when they left, there were a whole crop of improvisers and people into sketch comedy, and people had at different times tried to make theaters happen here. But in general, we were just a lot of doing our own pop-up shows all around town. And it was actually a really kind of nice way to do it because you could focus on process over product because you didn't have to worry about a space making the money or, some of that other stuff. So we got to grow and grow slowly, and that's good. And I also think, like, I see amazing stuff by people now who are doing stuff with imposters who have that accelerated time to do it in and are, it's also amazing. So I've been lucky to experience both of those equations.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see that because I started in the world before there was a dedicated space, so
Mhm.
we'd be hopping around to a lot of different places. And now it's more centralized and it has a lot of benefits, but it's also very cool to have the more like you never know where you're going to be one night to the next. I've definitely seen Mental Illness and Friends at or played Mental Illness and Friends at least like three or four different venues over the course of the years.
Yeah.
Um, and it's always great. So can you talk to me about how you started Mental Illness and Friends and what brought that about and how it began?
Yeah. In about 2016, by that point I had been doing uh mostly improv for about I guess around 14 years. And I live with mental illness, and one of the mental illnesses that I live with is chronic suicidal ideation, which means my brain spends a lot of time focused on me dying and me wanting myself to end my life, which is not a joy. And I was struggling a lot in 2016, and I went into the hospital, and it was one of many trips in my life to the hospital, and it was getting exhausting, and I felt more alone in the illness than I ever had. And there's a principle in dialectical behavior therapy, which is a type of treatment that is called opposite action, which means you don't wait for a feeling to happen, you make the choice, and hopefully the feeling will follow.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I was in there and I said, what is the opposite of wanting to destroy myself? That would be to create. And I had
Mm-hmm.
already created other shows at this point, but um, like, what could I create that would bring together people, that might not be here if I wasn't here? And I uh, have always loved late night talk shows, daytime talk shows, and part of me always wanted to host a show like
Mm-hmm.
that. And so I was like, what if I do? And what if all the guests happen to have some connection to mental illness, but they're also really talented artists? And we perform it like the most low budget comedy talk show in history.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what wound up happening. And luckily, because of doing comedy for so long and storytelling and stuff, there were so many people I knew in the Cleveland scene, and then I got to meet other people, and it's just really been a gift and something. So it started. So that was in 2016. The show actually started the following year in 2017.
Mm-hmm. I think the show that I played in 2018 was like around the anniversary of something, or I went to one of the for the 1 year anniversary of the show. I'm pretty sure
Mm,
was sometime around there. So it's wild to think that it's been
mhm.
around now at this point for
Yeah.
however many years. Eight? It's a lot of years.
Yeah, yeah. So and you yeah, you played in the January 2018 show, and then in May 2018 would have been our 1 year anniversary show.
Yeah, I think I definitely remember that show for whatever reason that one stuck in my
Mhm.
head. But yeah, so it's been so cool to see that show. And I think for to someone outside, it might seem a little strange to combine mental illness and comedy because I think it doesn't shy away from like the deepest, darkest parts. You bring that, and the guests often bring that to the show. Has anything surprised you seeing those two together, or do you see it as a natural fit?
Uh, Honestly, what surprised me most was when I started it, it was like on Tuesday nights in the basement of a bar,
Hmm.
and that people would choose to do that for their evening activity. That, they would have either worked all day or been busy, and they're like, I'm going to go sit in the basement of a bar on a Tuesday and listen to people talk about their mental illness.
Hmm.
But, I've never met a person in life who is some way affected or connected to mental illness. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I think it makes like it is. I don't want to say like sometimes it can be a bummer, but I never walk away feeling downtrodden or
Mhm.
like I always feel like more connected every time after the show. So I think and the comedy aspect is a huge part of that. So in the comedy side, I know you do stand up and improv. What has it been like doing both of those and sometimes in the same show? Do
Mhm.
you have a preference? Do you like to write versus like improvise? You're amazing at both. So do you have any preference or?
It's interesting at different points of my life. It's been different. I actually, uh, which this speaks to a lot of how my brain works. I first tried stand up shortly after I tried improv, and I made the mistake of inviting like everyone I knew to like a show, and I didn't do great. And I was like, in comedy, you'll often see people who don't do great but think they did great. And I was
Hmm.
like, I don't want people to think I'm awful, so I'll just quit or think that I don't know I was awful. So I'll just quit stand up and never do it again. And then started doing it again, and yeah. So for a while, I mean, I love improv so dearly. And in this past year though, it's been really neat to challenge myself more with the stand up, and they both help each other a lot, and the improv has really helped the stand up a lot in the
Mhm.
ability of knowing what an audience kind of needs in that moment, or being able to pivot or make, kind of jokes off the cuff or whatever. So I like that I get to do both.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's always great to watch you do either, and any and all is always a good time. Can you tell me about some of the other shows? Because I've been part of some of the other shows that you've done.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other shows that have sort of along the way that have shaped your comedy experience and made you who you are as a comedian?
Yeah. When the Second City left, um, my first over my first half of my Second City classes, like I had taken, I think, I don't remember how many classes, but I'd taken a lot, and it took me a while to get it. I felt like I was the worst one for a while. And then Second City left, and there were auditions, and you think that's the only way to do this art form, is to be put on this sort of team or whatever. And it didn't happen for me. And my good friend Kim Pride, who I met in my first improv class ever, her and I uh, started something called Friends with Benefits, which were all comedy benefit, all improv benefit shows. We did them
Awesome.
at a variety of locations, and we invited the people we loved watching most to be part of them.
Hmm.
And then getting to play with people who we really enjoyed watching, I think helped me get it a lot. And then in 2010, I created This Improvised Life, which is a show where two, I wanted to show that you didn't have to just make up stuff on the spot to be a part of it. So I
Hmm.
wanted it to have an element where writers and storytellers could be part of it. So we have different artists in the community, writers, storytellers, who get a word, and they have a couple weeks to write a story about that word. They get the same word, and we hear it the same night the audience does, at the same exact time, and then we go up and improv based off this. It's a combination of This American Life and an improv form called the Armando, which used to have guest monologists, or still does, but they would be thinking of their stories right in that moment.
Hmm. Yeah, This Improvised Life was another really cool show. I played that show as a musician, which was really fun. And I remember used to have that show at Happy Dog at the Euclid Tavern, East Side
Mhm.
Happy Dog, back when that still existed. And that my dad was in a jam band and used to play at the Euclid Tavern all the time in the 80s. So it was like really, really cool to be able to play music and then watch people improvise. And yeah, it was really fun and such a great show.
Oh, thanks so much. It's been so fun, and it really, like, that and Mental Illness and Friends are pretty much the two shows that happen now that I do, and both of them, just, it matters to me that, like, I want every person has a story or something to share, and I want to get as many people who have a part of them, at least, that wants to do that, to get up there. I teach a lot of improv, and people always be like, what if I go up on stage and I have nothing? And I'm like, you always have something. Like, you've lived 27 years. You have, like, views and points of view. So it's like we sometimes forget how much we have, and how much others will relate to something, even if it only feels specific to us.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you mentioned teaching.
Mhm.
So what is it like, you know, going from, I mean, you were a student a long time ago, an improv student,
Yeah.
back when, but you have a lot of experience now, a lot of experience. And what's it like kind of passing that on to the next generation of people? What's it like, what are your students like? How do they respond to stuff? And
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's like, if I could bottle what happens in that room and drink it when I get home, I would be in such good shape. I had not taught level one improv in years. It's, to
Hmm.
me, the hardest level to teach, because you really want to get these people to feel safe and brave and silly and make these choices and be supported. And Michael, who runs Imposters, asked me if I'd be interested in teaching level 1. And uh, I was like, sure, why not? I hadn't done it. I'd been teaching level 2 there for a little bit. And there's this, first of all, awesome thing, because I think it doesn't happen that much in our lives when we get to a certain age, where if you enter an improv class, like my classes are like usually someone in their, early 20s, or I even just had someone who was 18, and like
Hmm.
somebody who's retired in 65, and
Right.
everything in between. And they all have all these different life experiences that you would not expect. So to just get to be in a room with that many people who want to do this sort of thing. And then like I went not too long ago from a therapy appointment I was sobbing in down to teach. And it's like you just spend 2 hours with 100% enthusiastic support. Like that's
Yeah.
what I believe you do as a level 1 teacher.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
it just changes your brain. So,
Yeah.
oh my God. And then seeing all these people, like I've been, you know, it's so many different ages, so many different backgrounds, the like amount of different talents. Like I teach these try improv, and like I'm always impressed with anything music wise. I have no music ability. And like somebody's like, oh yeah, I played the violin in like my life. And somebody's like, I'm
Yeah.
an opera singer. And I'm like, oh my God.
It's so cool. And so the musical callback is
Mhm.
it's set in essentially it's set at Imposters Theater, and a big part of it is these characters who have various levels of experience. And like I think the path from new improv student who's so excited to like the people who are more experienced, who are more into it and have different goals, is such an interesting one. Because and it's so cool. I think one of the coolest things, because I have been around this community for I don't know, 6 years, 6, 7 years. And it's so cool to see like people that I've met, like a whole room full of people I've never met before who are part of the community. And it feels like it's really, it's always exciting to see like a new crop of like people taking a class. And it's like, oh, these people are becoming really good friends with each other. And then some of them will stick around and like make this their whole identity, which is always, a
Mhm.
cool thing that can
Yeah.
happen. Um, but it even anyone I think walks away from that experience changed for the better. Like I think taking an improv class is such a cool thing. It's so, and like what you're saying, that 100% support. It's just such, it's a place that adults don't often have, where they can
Right.
really just play.
Yeah. It's really just, I mean, like even when I walk into the theater and stuff, seeing all those like people talk about like different levels and sort of things, and people who just started, and you have that like, let me absorb everything about comedy that ever existed energy.
Yeah.
And, I like to think like at least uh I feel this way for the people I get to play with and stuff, and for how I see the community in general, is that there doesn't feel to be much of a jaded edge or whatever. Like people
Right.
who have been doing it longer, like hopefully that just means they're also choosing to do different things and try new things and bring their own. Like if everyone in that theater could create a show, I would love it. I want to see what
Yeah.
each individual person has.
Right. Yeah. I think that's eventually we'll get there. It might take a while, but
Yeah.
it's great. It's a great community, and it's so great that I basically wrote a musical about it. So that's the show. Awesome. Well, it is late-ish, so
Mhm.
I'm gonna call it now. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for being here, for doing this. Like I said, you're a big part of the journey. Mental illness and friends
Mhm.
got me into this community, and it's been great to continue to work with you and see you, and
Mhm.
it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you
Uh,
so much. I'm excited to see the show on August 29th. It's the
yeah.
9:30 show, and the 7:30 show that night is Mental Illness and Friends. So
Yes.
it's going to be a great double feature night, and I look forward to being there, and I can't wait to see this musical. Thanks for
Awesome.
having me, Joseph.
Yeah, thanks so much. So you mentioned mental illness and friends at 7:30 on August 29th.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other upcoming things you want to share?
This improvised life is on August 15th. Yeah, and we have a musical guest at that Mental Illness and Friends. We have Mal San Marco, a great singer-songwriter. So I'm just super stoked for that evening.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much. I'm
Mhm.
gonna probably go sit on my couch for a bit and chill out. But
All right. Good
yeah,
seeing you.
great seeing you as always.
Take care.
Bye.